Aesthetics number 12. Yeah. Fly robotics. Bifocals, my only purpose is to feed the locals. I'm spreading love when I see you and gotta approach you. I see the goodness in you, I wouldn't John Wick you. I know you hustling for your family just to pay the fiscal. I see the God up in you, you bless your physical. While we navigating problems, the world is abysmal. Skip the one up, let's get it to the center. Your house is big as mine, we can always help each other. Affirmation smother, it ain't even cost me a dime to uplift my brother.
What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Corley. I want to welcome y'all back if you've been here before. If not, welcome to Vulnerability is the New Sexy. This is the safe space for Black men where we try to do what we can to dismantle the stigma around mental health and vulnerability for Black men. Today, we're going to try to, move that goalpost, move that goal a little further along the way, and talk about Black fatherhood. And we want to not only talk about Black fatherhood, we want to talk about the betrayal of Black fathers in television and the impact it had on some of the brothers on our panel. So we want to see how Black fatherhood on television shaped our views on manhood, parenting, emotional vulnerability, and what we can do if necessary to break the cycles for the next generation. So let's get into it. I got some brothers with me tonight that I know very well. First, I want to introduce you to my good brother, Big Mike. Mike Pruitt up there. He's going to talk to us about a few things. All right, brother. Good to see you tonight, my brother.
Same here. Good to be here,
man. All right. And then I got my brother Vaunt with me. We go back pretty far. You know what I mean? I'm always interested in having conversations with him about various topics. I'm sure he's going to entertain y'all like he entertains me all the time.
Brought me on for the controversy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly, man. This dude's gonna talk dirty to y'all tonight. My brother Q is gonna join us shortly. Y'all heard that song in the intro. He is the writer, producer, and performer of that song. He's having some technical difficulties right now, and when he gets his stuff together, we're gonna go ahead and invite him into the conversation. All right, brothers. First thing I want to ask y'all, man, is, I'll ask you first, Mike. Were you influenced at all by any particular Black fathers on TV when you were growing up? You got to unmute yourself, brother.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I'm not going to say that I was influenced by any particular one, but one that I can really relate to would be the James Evans type father, real headstrong, real dependable, real, demanding, loving in his own way, that type of thing. So as I've, gotten older and looked back on my early years of fatherhood, I was definitely that James Evans type father. So.
Oh, that's who you were. Is that the kind of father you had? Is that the kind of father you had?
No, that's not the father I had at all. My dad wasn't present at all.
Oh, okay.
But I had my uncle who was like a father figure to me. And he was that kind of fella, you know what I'm saying? Kind of stern, and kind of what he said is what goes type of thing. So he was my example, And
right.
The thing about him is his daddy wasn't present in his life either. So he got his example from my grandfather, from my aunt's dad. And, when he started dating my aunt, he just kind of like latched on to my grandfather, you know what I'm saying? So he took on his personality and he passed it on down to me. That was my example, So that's kind of how I was. I used to be that old James Evans.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, my story ain't that different from that. I didn't really have a consistent influence for fatherhood. I actually have a shirt that says I'm a fatherless father. The only influence I had was a stepfather who wasn't, not necessarily the path that I wanted to take. So for me, I'm asking this question because a lot of my influences came from, watching Black fathers on TV or watching my friends' dads interact with their children, and then, using what I guess I got from those situations, and then trying to incorporate that into what I do as a father. It was all, built from that. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. James Evans. That's a scary.
I just boy.
when that brother John Amos died, man, I went back and like binge watched all the good times, and I was like, bro, bro, this dude. That's what inspired this episode. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. I said,
Man,
man, we got to talk about this, man, because James
man,
Evans
I'm
was
telling you.
wild, bro.
Yeah, he was definitely a character, man. The only difference I can see between me and him was my hair not over my head like his was, but other other than that, it was similar personalities. So
good brother Vaunt. Did you have a favorite black TV dad, and or any influences that stood out for you?
I definitely had a favorite. I have a favorite too.
Okay.
Influence. I'm sure there's influence there, but I didn't really take the cues from. But I guess I would say they gave me a license to behave how I would behave sometimes when I was a new father. But I don't know if y'all remember Lester from 227.
Yeah.
So Lester was actually the one that I was like, oh, okay, this is like a father. And I had to think about it. I said two, but I was just sitting here thinking about it. I want to say, Heathcliff, Huxtable, but honestly, I don't really think I looked at him from as much as fatherhood as much as being like a husband.
Okay.
So Lester was a guy I saw who was stern but warm. He was didn't take no mess, but could find the levity. So I think that was the first one I was really connected with and was like, oh, okay, this is what being a father is like.
No doubt. Lester Jenkins.
Yeah.
forgot
Lester
about
Come
Lester.
Jenkins.
on, man. I know him
Yeah,
all, man. Lester Jenkins, man. He didn't play, bro. He didn't
yeah.
play with Mary. He didn't play with his wife either.
Nah. He laid it down everywhere.
And she was always getting
Oh
in
boy.
trouble. She was always
Yeah.
getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Uh, but going back to that James Evans, and you know what? Actually, we can talk about Lester too. But when you think about them kind of brothers, because Good Times was 70s, 227 was 80s. Do y'all feel like those brothers represent the real complexity of black fatherhood? Now, Lester, he really didn't get like I don't remember any episodes where he got for real vulnerable, and he was also a girl dad and all of that. But James, even though he went crazy a few times, there were some episodes where he showed some real vulnerability, some real hurt. And I mean, thinking about that time frame, do y'all feel like he was a good representation of the complexities of what black fatherhood really is?
I do.
Yeah,
Um,
Mike, go ahead, Mike.
yeah, I do, man. Because James, it was like an everyday guy. You know what I'm saying? That anybody in any family can relate to. So I think he encompassed a lot of the things that was going on in that period. He was more relatable for as far as the Uncle Phil on Fresh Prince and things. Even uh, Bill Cosby on the Huxtables. To me, those weren't relatable from where I'm from. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So that was more like a fantasy type household type of thing that you wish you would have when you get older, that kind of thing. The two parents, professional parents and stuff like that. But the James Evans to me, man, he was very relatable. He was a good example of what manhood and fatherhood was back then, I think, from my perspective. So yeah, I think he was a good representation.
Hey, brother. Before I go to brother Vaughn, I want to ask the chat, man. We got about 50, 60 people in here. Welcome in, y'all. Tell us who y'all favorite TV fatherhood was, black TV father was, and why. Throw it in the chat. Let us know. You got Carl Winslow. Rock. People say Rock a lot, but Rock really didn't have no kids, man. They cut that show
Yeah.
off before he had that baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rock
So,
was
so Big
wild.
Mac, my brother Big Mac, man. Rock didn't have no kids, man. Unless you talking about the old man that was Rock's father, Andrew.
His brother Joey.
He had his brother Joey. Joey ain't had no kids either. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was father to them boys.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Rock.
Fred.
Fred Sanford. Man, come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Lamont.
That might be the only one I haven't really sat and binged is the Sanford and Son. And that's crazy because I'm from St. Louis and that's exactly where that was. But all the rest of them, I just recently binged Rock and all of that. But Vaughn, same question to you, brother. When you think about the complexities of black fatherhood, and I'm using James Evans because you know, he went outside and fought it, and then
Mm-hmm.
brought that back in the house. You know what I mean? And that's really relevant today. You know, like, you know, man, we go outside, we fight it, and then we got to try to, you know, bring ourselves. This is for me. I go outside and I fight it, and then I got to come kind of center myself to be present with
Decompress.
my. Yeah, I got to be center myself to be
Yeah,
present for my sons.
you know, yeah, I think Good Times did a great job of making a sitcom as based in reality in real life for Black folks, especially Black folks in urban areas who had obviously been part of the Great Migration and moved somewhere else, them based in Chicago in the 70s, you know, given the landscape of what was going on. So, you know, Black folks fled to the North for two reasons. One was for safety. And then secondly, you know, it was for the economics, for the job opportunities. So where we thought we were getting some of the safety, at least not the proverbial knee on our necks daily in the North, um, I think, you know, that could be argued, but what can't be argued is that, you know, there was that definitely more economically advantageous opportunities for a good 40 years. And then the 70s came. And the 70s came where we first started seeing, now we, you know, we don't even use the word globalization anymore. We use globalized, you know, because we started seeing jobs that had traditionally been for us, or at least 1.5, 2 generations be for us, start to go other places, start to go away from the urban centers and all of these things. And so we saw James Evans dealing with that. We saw him dealing with having to fight to keep the job he did have, having to humble himself to keep the job he had, probably more menial than his intellect. And then he come in a house and everybody had something for him for their day. The kids was just growing up. I think that what the undercurrent of James Evans was, as frustrated as he was, as angry as he seemed sometimes, he let those kids breathe. He let them try. He didn't try to give him his life. You know, we hear in other wasn't a sitcom, but when you think about Fences, the August Wilson play then turned into a movie. You know, that daddy was on the neck all day long about how hard his life was, and his son's life wasn't going to be no easier, you know. But we saw James Evans be more of a modern father for those times in the 70s, where he was still dealing with the same type of battles he had to face outside of the home. And sometimes it got the best of him, and then Florida would come in there and check him, you know, like, oh, don't get it twisted, like you the only one fighting battles. But he, you know, those kids, his goofy son, you know, his son that took himself too serious, his daughter just trying to find a way in the world, but still be a daddy's girl. You know, he let all of them breathe. And I think that is relatable to what happens now. But, you know, I do think that we did grow a little bit in terms of, for a lot of us, how we have to show up in the world. The fight is still the same. We've got to fight for our right to be human, for sure, as Black men. And sometimes that requires us to tone something down, to be less of ourselves, you know. But when we get in that house, we got to be all of what our children know us to be, you know. And I think James did that. You know, I think they got that for sure.
They nailed that, huh?
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I tell you what, speaking of James, we're going to go to a video real quick and, you know, give you an example of the father that James Evans was.
Symptoms of hypertension.
Now, who's upset and hollering? Now, what y'all trying to make me out to be, some kind of maniac or something?
James, honey, please, don't upset yourself.
Now, there you go telling me I'm upset. What the hell's going on here?
Here's your aspirin, Dad.
You take him, I don't need him. I said you take him, I don't need him. Now, what the hell's going on in here anyhow? I come home from work and Thelma's bugging me about some jive time job. Now y'all trying to tell me I'm sick. Next thing I know, y'all tell me I'm ready for the funny farm.
James, calm down. Stop upsetting yourself.
Now, Florida, I ain't gonna say this no more. I ain't got no hypertension. And I don't want to hear another damn word about it. I ain't sick, I ain't nervous, and I ain't upset.
Symptoms of hypertension.
Now who's
Oh,
So,
yeah, I put James Evans crashing out on y'all, man. Y'all hyped him up so bad.
I'm talking about how you played it
I
well.
didn't
You
mean
picked
that
it one
part.
time.
I didn't mean that part.
You done nut it
can't
up.
relate to that part. No,
That's
I
it.
need to go
Hey,
back.
alley oop. I threw the alley oop to y'all, man.
Yeah, man.
Y'all threw it to me, man. Actually, y'all threw it to me. That was perfect, man. I'm glad y'all set it up like that.
No,
Yeah,
I
man,
didn't
bro.
mean that part. Not that
Man,
part.
bro, I just binged that show, man, and it's so many scenes like this. Brother's crashing out, man, all the time, just because he had high blood pressure and his kids wanted him to go to the doctor, bro. I was like,
Simple
what?
stuff.
I was like, dang, man. And JJ sold another paint, and now you got to use it to pay the rent. Like, it was crazy, bro. But no,
Yeah,
man.
wow.
When I wasn't around in the '70s, but when you think about this portrayal going out into the world, this is a very popular show. Do you? I'm gonna ask you first, Mike. Do you feel like like how do you feel about this portrayal going out to larger audiences, both inside and outside our community? Like, what do you think about that?
Man, actually, to a certain extent, I think both in our community and outside of our community, they feel the same way, and they look at black men like that in general. They just think we're angry people all the time,
Right.
always upset about something. So it happens within our culture and out also, So it's like we have to walk a fine line with everybody, and we're constantly, trying to prove ourselves and prove that things that we are not, as far as what they think we are. So I think it's a real big influence, man. And I like I said, I used to be a certain portion of James, not that part crashing the chair on the wall. No,
Yeah,
that
yeah. Y'all
but,
heard it, man. Y'all heard him. Mike said this is his
yeah,
hero. This is
no,
this fatherhood idol.
yeah, I need to amend my statement earlier. It wasn't that part, but as far as just being the angry part, just being stressed and stuff like that, I can relate to that 1000%.
Yeah, for
So
sure, man.
but yeah, man, I definitely think uh everybody sees the same way within the black community and outside the black community.
Yeah, man. I mean, that there was a lot of things that went on in this show that I was like really with, but for the most part, man, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I was cringing a lot, bro. Like every single if you can't, the portrayal was you gotta beat your black kids to keep them out of trouble. That's the only way. Only way you keep these black kids
Man,
out of trouble is to beat them.
But
I mean,
we dealing with
that's what we saw. That's
we
what
dealing with
saw.
we dealing with a different deck of cards.
Now,
And there was a little bit of truth in that, especially if you were a son or daughter of the South living in these environments where you obviously an immaterial can happen. You bear witness to that. I'm sure 1,000 times his grandfather and his mom wish they would have just beat him a little bit more to keep him out of that. So when I say we dealing with a different deck of cards, I ain't saying it's all sweet for us, but it's a different reality of there was a perceived truth in it.
mm-hmm.
Not whether it was true or not, but it was the truth.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And it was a lot to unfold. A lot of things, marginally over time, they've gotten a little bit better. And we still, and definitely how we see media and all of that stuff now, we get touched, and we all know the more current names for sure. But that was a reality that folks were dealing with, and especially, the episode where JJ got shot.
Yeah.
Trying not to be in a gang, right? And
Right.
he got shot. So, dealing with that, it was a reality, in some instances, in some cases. But I think overall, that idea was a different deck of cards where, at that time, it was like, yeah, that this is what it's going to take because this is what I was taught. And this is what I know. And, through two things, just time and then understanding and education,
Sure.
it can be a little bit different. But I was just at a grocery store with my daughter and my son. We in the grocery store, bro. And she seen one of her friends from school, high school. And the little girl texted her and was like, "Oh, your dad looked scary." because he was so big, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sure whatever I was doing with my kids was nothing scary at all. You feel me?
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
that idea of us being a threat always to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Right.
That's still the reality we living in. So then the reminder of, hey, don't be a threat, and I'm gonna show you through this type of, you know, not sparing the rod type situation. I mean, that was a reality where, you know, thank God times have changed a little bit.
Right. And then, you know, that's what you said is important for reference too. You know, like it's also accurate. You know what I mean, and relevant to just the James Evans conversation because he's actually from Mississippi, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's referenced several times in the show of the things he had to observe growing up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And yeah, and he's in Cabrini Green, right? We all know what Cabrini
Right.
Green is. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta lead with a firm hand to keep your kids, you know, out of trouble in that situation. So I do want to acknowledge the circumstances that he was in. But everybody wasn't in those circumstances, right? But still, you know, you could be, you know, suburban America. I mean, I think I, for the most
Yeah.
part, grew up in the suburbs, and I caught them same ass whoopings. You know,
I mean,
it wasn't no
that's the mentality of it. That's what we were taught.
right. The warlords went outside
Mm-hmm.
over in South Minneapolis. up in the 40s, the warlords weren't out there, bro. But I still, you know, I still caught them ass whoopings, man. So whatever,
Yep.
you know, we'll figure it out, bro. But no, I appreciate those historical references, man. I do want to like again kind of touch on again though, like sometimes we don't like to pull back the curtain, you know what I mean? And good times pull back the curtain, man, all the way. Do you feel like if that show or something like that pulled back the curtain today, would you be uncomfortable with it going out to the masses? Or, you know, would you be like, yeah, y'all need to see this is the reality of what we doing here? I'm gonna ask you first, Mike.
Man, yeah, you can't have those kind of shows nowadays with that kind of behavior on it, man. It's with social media and all that kind of stuff. Everything is different nowadays, you know. Well, just me in general, myself, I can speak for myself personally. I look back on a lot of the situations, you know, where my kids were younger. All my kids grown now, so looking back on how I was back then, man, it's I mean, I'm embarrassed of myself, you know, some of the stuff that I did. And it's kind of one of them things where now that you know better, you do better.
Yeah,
And back then I didn't have a good example of what to do different, you know. So it was kind of like learning on the fly in a certain way. And so I was doing what I thought was right, you know, but now with therapy and stuff like that, you know, I learned that, you know, that stuff it wasn't cool, it wasn't the right way to parent. And,
right,
you know, I just I wouldn't do the same thing at all. So now that I have grandkids, I'm trying to be a better grandfather than I was an actual father, you know.
right.
So but yeah, man, I just try to those type of things on shows now they wouldn't make it. It's too much for modern day television and stuff. So
Man, 100% accurate, bro. Before I go on, man, let me introduce my brother Q over here, man. Still trying to get, I think, his microphone together. But Q, man, I played the intro at the top of the show, man.
Thank you,
Uh,
man.
yeah, man. And so you missed that
it's a
moment,
nice
man. I
vibe.
was, yeah.
No, I was still watching.
Oh,
So
you heard
yeah,
it? Okay,
yeah,
cool,
that's
cool,
a
cool, cool.
blessing, man.
Glad,
I
man.
Fire.
appreciate
Glad,
it.
That's
man.
fire too. I need
Yeah,
that.
that's a nice vibe. Nice vibe.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Nice to meet you, brother.
Yeah,
Same
man.
here.
We were just talking about James Evans raising his kids in Chicago, man. You a Chicago representative, man. So you know what I mean, do you feel like you needed ass whoopings to grow up in Chicago?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. Hey, you know what they say in our community? It take a village, right? So yeah, I got them from everybody. Uncle, grandmama, auntie, got them from everybody, and it did me well.
Yeah. The producer asked you to put your camera on landscape, brother Q. Yeah, I mean,
Landscape.
just turn it sideways or whatever. But this is a production, my brother.
Gotcha.
Production, my brother.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we out here tonight,
That,
man. Listen, I want to know. I know we kind of saying out loud that a lot of what I'm gonna ask you this, Vaughn, the what we saw from that episode or from James Evans in general was reality, but a lot of it, that show was produced by a white man, written by white people. Do we feel like, that show and shows like that or portrayals like that perpetuated stereotypes about, the black father, um, or some other shows where we see black fathers uninvolved, basically, do you think that TV sometimes has us bent?
I mean, okay, so you asked a loaded question. Does TV sometimes have us bent? Yes. Do good times specifically have us bent? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Even though some white folks wrote it. I mean, especially again, you keeping it into context. You talk about growing up in the 40s over South in Minneapolis. Boy, you was one of the few. You know that. Raise your hand if at least you or one of your parents, at least one of your parents was raised in the projects. Both my parents were.
For sure.
When you look at the numbers of impoverished, I mean, I grew up impoverished. I grew up in poverty, right? So if you look at it, and I wasn't born in the 70s. You feel me? So when we talk about the 70s and we talk about the sheer numbers of black folks who were still impoverished growing up in the projects, like it was a reality for a lot, not just some. Like most of us was living like that. You know what I mean? So that's one piece about the reason Good Times was such a hit. And then the other piece is the media that we had access to, the mediums that we had access to were limited to TV, newspaper, magazine, radio. That was pretty much it. There was no social media, internet, or anything like that. So the ways of life that were being seen resonated with so many through only a couple of these mediums. So for our generations, when you grow up Gen X, millennials, you grow up a hip hop generation, it starts to look a little different because one of the things is we didn't even really have daddies in our home. And that's not a stat that's everybody talk about, oh, look, we, perpetuating stereotype. No, it was like we really was the one generation where daddies was not in the home.
Right.
You know what I mean? The hip hop generation was who really grew up on hip hop, like for real.
Right.
Like, our daddies wasn't there like that. But but Good Times wasn't that. They were showing somebody daddy in the home, that type of thing. So when you talk about now in general, when we started to see further on, different I'm gonna say different characterizations or different caricatures of black life. Yeah, we could definitely point to, but Good Times resonated mainly still with black folks mainly. You know what I mean? And it resonated because it was so real.
Right. Hey, I want to come back to that. But first I want to go to another example of a black father. We're gonna go to Uncle Phil. We're gonna show a clip of that and we'll come back and talk about it on the other side.
I'm a man, and a man should be able to stand on his own 2 feet, make his own way like you did. I mean, a man does it for himself. I mean, it's a hard road to travel, but after you travel it and you look back on what you accomplished, you can say, I did that. I'm a man.
That's the biggest load of bull I've heard since I left the farm. Nobody does anything without help, Will. People open doors for me, and I've worked hard to open doors for you. It doesn't make you any less of a man to walk through them.
Hey man, listen, I spent a lot of time, running through clips of black fathers getting ready for this episode. And I don't know if I would have said this because Fresh Prince was the show I liked the least.
Yeah.
But Uncle Phil might have been the best example. He the one that gave me the most I feel like he had the most quality attributes of black fatherhood of all the ones that I was going through. But man, tell me tell me what y'all think. Start with you, Q, because going back to some of what Vaught was saying about, you know, the realities of the hip hop generation, Fresh Prince was really one of the shows that gave us both sides of it, because he had an absentee father, but he also had Uncle Phil had to step in, and Uncle Phil was also a father to his own children. So we kind of got, you know, both worlds in that generation. That was, and I mean, based on what Von's saying is reality. So tell me, man, when you think about, first of all, we kind of talked about this earlier, but was your father present in your life?
No, not at all, man. I had a step pops. So
Okay,
yeah,
all right, cool.
my actual father, no, not at all.
So when you watch that episode right there, man, basically Uncle Phil talking about, man, I'm opening doors for you. You know what I mean? You got to be able to walk through them. I mean, what feelings do you have observing that?
Man, I felt that because, like I said, you know, my father wasn't always there. My step pop, who became my step pops, I didn't know him, you know, until I was introduced to him, and then he stayed with my mom for 27 years. So yeah, I felt that because sometimes you got people to step in. So like my father figure was my uncle before, you know, my step pops got into my life. So yeah, man, that episode, that's one of them deep episodes. I put one of those clips, and y'all know the clip is very popular.
Yeah,
You know, when we saying why he don't want me, man, like,
yeah,
you know, so yeah,
yeah.
man, I felt that. And that's crazy. You say, man, that Fresh Prince was one of the best shows, bro. How you not, how is that like
Oh
your
I'm with
man,
least
Joe.
favorite?
I'm with Joe. It was
no, it
super
was
funny.
trash, man. It was really
Oh
trash.
my God.
I try to binge watch with my son, man. We binge watch every 80s and 90s show. Me and my son. We couldn't even finish Fresh Prince, bro. We couldn't even finish. It was so bad. I don't remember it being that bad either, man. I mean, but I guess if you watch it, you know, one episode a week, it's kind of okay. But if you watch it back to
Instead
back,
of back to back.
bro, them shows did not make any sense. But following up on what you said, man, I had the same kind of experience, man. A collection of my uncles, you know, had to step up and represent as father figures for a good period of my time, especially after my mother passed away when I was a teenager. It was my uncles who kind of, you know, put their hands together and stepped in different ways and represented, you know, represented that fatherhood for me. Um, so, but let me ask you this, Mike. Do we got to take points off of Uncle Phil because at the end Will Smith didn't turn out to be a damn thing? He was
Wow.
26 years old, bro. He had no direction. It's like, did Uncle Phil
No,
fail?
man.
Did he fail him?
Nah.
I mean, he
No,
went to
man.
college though, right?
He went, but
Nah,
he,
you can't.
he
Nah,
went.
you can't put that on Uncle Phil, man. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, a kid's gonna do what a kid's gonna do,
Right.
regardless of what morals or whatever things you try to teach them. You know, I mean, kids, they can go off the rail, but one thing it does is it do make you question yourself as far as how, if you failed them as a parent, how good of a parent you were, could you have done something differently? You know,
Yeah,
one of our daughters kind of went through a similar type situation, and it had me and my wife, you know, at each other, struggling with each other. You know what I'm saying? Because you know how mother is with the kids, and I'm like, she got to learn. You know, that she
right,
got to hit rock bottom if she want to be
Yeah.
grown, type of thing. You know,
Right.
right.
but what it did was, one thing me and my wife did agree on. It made both of us question ourselves and what did we do wrong. But then, you know, we came to a realization that it's not our fault. Kids are gonna
Okay.
do what they're gonna do. They're gonna make decisions that's gonna affect their life, whether good or bad. And they have to learn sometime that every decision that you make gonna have some type of response. You know what I'm saying? Whether good or bad. You know, that type of thing. But
For
nah,
sure, man.
you can't put that on Uncle Phil. Can't
Yeah,
put it
no,
on him.
I'm just kidding, man. You know, Uncle
But nah,
Phil. Yeah, I can't put it
Not even
on. He gave him.
like 16, 17 when he got him. He
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
damn
right.
near already full baked. You know, he was a
yeah.
lot of time here too. You
Yeah,
can't put that
yeah,
on the
right,
field.
right. You're right. You're
But
right.
you know,
I'm just joking. But you know, when I
but
think about my parenting style, right? Like I said, when I was flipping through all these clips, I mean, I went through all of them, bro. Carl Winslow,
Yeah.
Lester Jenkins. I mean, anybody you could possibly think of that was a black father. I went through all of them, and I gotta say, man, I settled on these on Uncle Phil because Bro, his parenting style resonates the most with the way I parent my sons and my, so I'm gonna ask y'all, man, first of all, tell me a little bit about your parenting style and tell me if there's a TV dad that kind of resonates with the way that you parent. I'm gonna start with you, Vaughn.
Resonates with the way that I parent.
Yeah. And talk about your parenting style too. If you can describe it.
I like my allegories. So when I was in college, I read this article about this elephant sanctuary. And, they're saving the elephants in Botswana, basically, from the poachers. And elephant sanctuary for a long time, they have number of women in it or females. And then somehow they got like I forget what they call them, like a bull or something, like when the baby calf boys, they call them bulls or whatever. And so everything was good till that bull, that male, he got bigger. Then he started fighting with the other ones that was like his sisters closer to his age. Then he started fighting the older female elephants, and then everybody started fighting each other. Right. And then, they brought in a male, like a full-grown male elephant. Everything calmed down. So as soon as they brought that full-grown male elephant in, they may have had it out like one time, but everybody got in. Everybody got in shape. And so, my wife often was like, "Oh, you think you just being here is enough?" A lot of times I do, because the energy is going reverberate for sure of just me being in the house in the situation. I'm coming in, stomp my feet, bang my chest, right, whatever I got to do. But also just being me, it's gonna be a change in the atmosphere, right? Right. So, that's whether it's my wife, my daughter, or my son. And so my parenting style, a lot of times, just show up and be there. Because that was also the difference. I have a relationship with my father, but he was, all the way 3 states over. I would see him in the summertime. Right. But wasn't nobody in my house like that, Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times it's just being there and being present. And so when I think about the TV dads who were present, Uncle Phil, like I mentioned, Lester, I go back to Heathcliff, the ones that was just present, usually there was a change in the way the story was going when they showed up. Right. It was enough. I remember that one when Theo Huxtable, he was like, "No, Dad, I just want to do what I want to do. I just want to be free."
Called him dumb.
He was like, "That's the dumbest thing I ever heard." And right. It was like, yeah, because you sound stupid, boy. Like, you need to be told that sometimes, Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I can't think of one, but that's.
Well, let me follow up, man. Let me follow up why I got you, man. I'm gonna go into the rest because I know Q, he raised all boys. I know Mike, I think you raised all girls, right? And I raised all boys. So you're the only one on the panel that raised a girl and a boy. So let me know, man. It's raising. I'm gonna say raise, like you still raising them. But do you have to flip your parenting style?
Yeah, that was something I had to learn early. So when my daughter was she's the oldest, when she was a baby, it was all good. It was daddy come around, high energy, throw me around, fling me around, all this stuff. When she started turning into a young lady, the approach had to be like completely different. Because since my son was born, I'm always, doing all that. But it was like, hey, boy, the same way I had uncle who was very instrumental in my life. He always yelling at me, and I loved it. I look forward to it. It's like that felt like love for me. With my son, I could see, the structure, all of that. He responds well to that. I call him, I'm hey, shouting, grunting, all this stuff. He enjoys it. My daughter's like, bro, what you on right now? Chill out. So, and I'm learning actually through my daughter, honestly, how to better communicate with my wife, so it's like, I can't keep the same approach. Can't keep coming like, oh, but whether right, wrong, or indifferent, sometimes you gotta bring it a different way. You gotta swing it a little bit lower. You gotta, be a little more patient. Even if you're saying the same exact thing, it's just the connotation gonna be different because these are they gonna be a garden one day, but right now they're just one little fragile flower.
Interesting, bro. Interesting. That's an interesting thing. I never even thought about that till he started talking. Like, I don't know what it would be like to kind of, have to flip them switches, man. Because like I said, I got all boys, and the only thing I really have to teach them or try to influence them is, the main attribute that I possess is trying to show them how I treat their mother.
Yeah,
For the most part,
I'm so
right?
happy you brought that up, bro. That is
Yeah,
so key.
and I wanted to ask you, Q, man, how much guidance do you think you got growing up from either any type of father figure when it came to how you deal or operate with the opposite sex?
Man, I got a lot of guidance from my step pops. Rest in peace. Like he really taught me how to be a man. Like, him and my mom. When I say they, him and my mom, like sometimes it was a little volatile. A little arguing, of course. But he really taught me how to treat a woman. Like, just saying nice things, being nice, listening. Making sure that everything is right within the household when something goes astray, like knowing how to calm everything down, like he was saying about the elephant. When the big elephant stepped in the room, everything calmed down. Like he that was like one of his greatest attributes. Like he taught me actually how to be a man. So I bring that to my family. I'm a little volatile too sometimes, like me and my wife get into it, but we always fix it. But me, I parent freely, and sometimes it don't always work. Like he was saying, like you gotta do different things with different kids. So it worked with my, like, short of cursing or being disrespectful, you pretty much could say what you want. Like we sit down at the table, eat, maybe play an Uno or something, and we could all talk about whatever's going on. And short of like I said, those two things, you pretty much could say what you want. It works with certain kids. It don't work with all of them though. Like my youngest, it don't work for him. My middle son, you can be fully assertive, but he's not gonna intake any type of aggressiveness. Like I could
Yeah.
be aggressive with my older son, like maybe cussing, maybe a little grabbing. You finna do this. Nah, not my middle son. He don't respond to that at all. My youngest son, he responds to positive affirmation, period. If anything's negative, he's gonna shut down.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I learned most of my parenting, like I said, from my stepdad, and it had a big impact on my life because he the one who really taught me how to be a man.
No, that's a good point, man. Because I got sons too, and I definitely have to flip switches for them too. I guess it doesn't necessarily um, only resonate with those who have kids of different genders. Yeah, for sure. I gotta flip the switch that too, man. Uh, Mike, man, I wanted to ask you that same question though about learning how to deal with the opposite sex, man. I mean, I know you didn't have, your father wasn't present either, man. But did any father in your or father figure in your life or male figure in your life influence how you deal with women, positive or negative?
Yeah, man, everything. It was my uncle, man. He was my father figure. One thing that he did tell me early on, he was like, right before I got married, that kind of thing. He was like, ultimately, a man is judged by how well you take care of your family, right?
Yeah,
So that was first and foremost. So that was my main objective: make sure the kids all right, make sure wifey okay, that kind of thing, and then you know I'm pulling up the rear because you have to make sure that everybody else is okay because that's how people gonna look at me, what type of man I am. Am I taking care of home? Am I taking care of the household? That kind of stuff. And
yeah,
that just always, stuck in my head, man. And that's what it was all about. The downside of that is you focus on providing and stuff like that to where you really become like emotionally unavailable.
right.
That was my fault. And the things that now that I look back on, I wish I could change, because I was all concerned about making sure everybody had what they needed. And then when I'm coming home, I'm like, as men and husbands, we set the tone and we set the temperature for the house. So if I come home, I'm all puffed up and pissed off. There go the house. Everybody
Right.
uptight now.
Right.
Everybody walk like they walking on eggshells. We don't want to piss them off today. We don't want to say the wrong things. That kind of thing.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying my uncle was like that all the time, but he was. He took care of home. He took care of my aunt. He took care of my cousin. But sometimes he was wound tight. It was just stressed out. Those type of things. Just trying to provide, man.
Right.
So he was my man. Everything that I learned, as far as coming up, being a man, getting married, that kind of stuff, man. He was it for me. There was nobody else. He was my person that I looked up to. So yeah.
Mike, man, I gotta ask you, man, because I know you and I know how intentional you are about your emotional availability in this stage in your life, brother.
Hmm.
So I think it's important, especially for the men in the chat and the men out there in the audience, to know, kind of how important was it for you to make yourself emotionally available for your family, man, through, yeah. Tell me how you thought, what steps you took to make yourself emotionally available.
uh Therapy, and I didn't want to go. That was my wife.
Hmm.
We was at the point like, hey, either you do or we done type of thing. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? I was battling with depression and didn't want to admit it, so it just got bad. And so uh he didn't give me a choice. Didn't want to go. Went there the first session, like, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm just here because wife making me come.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Really wasn't putting nothing into it. But then the second and third week, I'm like, okay, all right. Month in, I'm like, all right then. So it started touching me, you know what I'm saying? To where I just had never been vulnerable with anybody before because I was taught to keep it in, deal with it internally, that kind of thing. Don't show weakness. But this man, dude, he is just something about him. He just made me comfortable, made me open up, which led to uh, me thinking about how I actually dealt with my family,
Yeah.
my wife, my daughters, that kind of thing. And one particular session, we was on parenthood. How do I parent? My parenting style. I was rude. Uh, it was my way or no way.
Yeah.
If I tell you something and you getting punished, that's your fault for not listening. You know what I'm saying? And you keep not listening. I'm not just taking phones. I'm taking doors off the hinges. I'm taking everything off the wall. TV out, everything.
James Evans.
All you have in your room is paint on the wall. That's it. I did all that, dude. I was
Yeah.
stupid. I was stupid back in the day. I did all that stuff, man, and all it did was just damage the relationship I had with my girls.
For
It
sure.
made them not want to be around me, that kind of stuff. So fast forward, therapy session, that kind of thing, and it really touched me with knowing and actually accepting the fact that I wasn't the perfect father. Because
Understood.
in my mind, I was, because I'm present, I'm
Hmm.
taking care of the family, doing what I'm supposed to do. We ain't, we ain't getting kicked out of our house. We ain't, we paying all the bills, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I'm doing a good ass job, but actually I'm doing more harm than help, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So start, realizing this stuff and start accepting these things, and it's like killing me on the inside. You know what I'm saying? So I made a point to each one of my daughters. We went out, we talked, I apologized for things that I did, that kind of stuff. Same conversation with my wife. And when I made good with everybody in my house, then I started branching out to everybody else in my family,
Yeah.
mothers, brothers,
For sure.
aunts, uncles, everybody.
Right.
So once I started doing that, because I set the temperature for my whole family. I'm their go-to
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
So I'm like the nucleus of everything. So when I'm pissed off, everybody it reaches out to everybody. So just them witnessing me coming to them and having that kind of conversation with them was completely unheard of. something that they never thought they would see from Mike.
Right.
You know, because I'm always mad, angry, you know, that kind of thing. So to see, it was their first time seeing a side of me that I actually let them in. You know what I'm saying? And hell, it was all new to me.
Right.
I'm shocking the hell out of myself. Like, damn,
Right.
I'm sitting here crying and going on. I ain't cried in 40 some years and shit. I'm crying all the damn time. You know what I'm saying? But it put me in touch with myself. It put me in touch with my family. It just opened up doors for me that I didn't even realize were closed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so man, it improved my relationship with everybody around me. Now, one thing that I did do, and I was very intentional on doing when my girls was growing up, we go out on daddy-daughter dates. We did that. You know, when they got to a certain age, you know, when you know the little boy's gonna be trying to holler at them, hey, that's how they talk. This what they gonna say, this what they mean by it. My wife's like, you don't have to say it like that. No, they need to hear it. Who else to hear it better from a man? You know what I'm saying? And your dad, I'm gonna hip you to all the little games that they trying to run, you know. Just let me put the head in. And my wife, hey, you know how many times I said no? I'm like, no, they need to hear. They need to hear all of
all
it.
the game.
Some
All
of
the
the best
game. All the
game.
game.
Bro,
Hey, brother, if
raw
James
and
Evans had
uncut.
lived, if he had lived and he went to therapy, this is what he would have looked like, y'all. All
I
right.
mean,
You see
Joe,
this man?
you know me, you know, at the beginning of therapy and stuff, bro. I wasn't trying to hear none of that shit, you know.
Yeah,
But
no, he
now,
wasn't trying to
man,
hear it, man. Going with all that
now,
therapies. Nah, what
yeah,
you crying
bro.
for, old sugar bear looking ass boy? All that
Bro,
crying.
yeah. Big ass
All
crying
that crying.
again.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, listen, fellas, the rest of Q, Vaughn, any of y'all relate to any of that, man? I don't know if y'all been to therapy or not, but do y'all relate to anything that Mike talking about?
Yeah, man. I've been to therapy. Make a long story short. Try to. My son almost passed, and along with my niece. Like they fell in the pool in Minnesota. We lived in Richfield. Fell in the pool. She fell in the pool. My son hopped in after. She was in a coma for a couple days. My son had hypothermia. So, I left work, trying to rush to get to, where they were at, seeing all of that, seeing my son, with IVs and tubes and everything, like it broke me. Like as a man, it broke me. Like you, Mike, you were saying, like just being present, like, so I wasn't present. So somehow shattered me. So my job offered therapy. I took it, and it opened up a whole lot of doors, man. Like it taught me about my disdain for my father who wasn't there, So it taught me a lot. Like one of the topics that we talked about was how you treat people that you that you might view as your father. Like even if it's your basketball coach. And like that, it really resonated with me. And like Mike, like you said, like it opened doors that I didn't even know was open. So now, like I'm more calm than I was. Like I'm more communicative with my wife, or try to be. Sometimes it don't work all the time, but
Yeah.
I'm more communicative with them. I'm more communicative with my sons, and going to therapy is a good thing, man. Like for real, you would learn stuff about yourself that you would never really want
That's a
to
fact.
internalize, but you have to,
Yeah.
because it'll tell you so much about yourself, and it make you be a better person every day. Like getting better every day is the main thing you want to do, right? So like you saying, Mike, everybody not perfect. Might thought you was a perfect dad. You ain't perfect. We ain't perfect, but getting better every day, that's a good thing. That's like the purpose.
Hey, man, I'm gonna go to this last video, and then on the other side of it, we're gonna talk to Vaughn about something. But let's go to this last video real quick.
No, wait a minute. How old are you?
Dad, you know how old? Oh, I mean, I'm 18, Mr. Weewax.
18? I'm sorry you can't have it. 18-year-old people, they party too much.
Did I say 18?
Yeah.
I mean, I meant I've been on my own since I was 18. I'm actually 23.
That's fine. Okay.
Now, I will need first and last month's rent.
Why?
Well, that's because in case you start to skip out of here early, I got you.
That's 12.
So again, brothers, you know, I'm going through all of these videos. Why did I think this was important? Because what are we really talking about? It's not the first episode where Cliff was trying to teach his kids financial literacy, which is something that I didn't grow up with. But that's something I try to produce for my children today. So I wanted to throw this to you, Vaughn. You know, how does that clip resonate with you? Why did you feel like it was important? If you felt like it was important, or Cliff Huxtable overall? I know you more resonate with the way he treated his wife, but talk about that for a second.
No, I mean, you know, I got similar messaging that the brother Mike said in terms of, you know, what a good father is, and a good man, number one, can take care of himself. And then a great man can take care of others. You know, I'll just say a man can take care of himself. You ain't even a man if you can't take care of yourself. A good man can take care of others, and a great man can really help improve others. You know, and I look at that in the lens of fatherhood as well. So when we talking about that from the standpoint of financial literacy, you know, the worst thing we could do is, you know, I would say pull the plug on these kids where we give them too much, and we give them too much trying to compensate for what we didn't get. That's one of the hardest things I have to deal with mine, because I'm like, okay, there was so much. I remember the voids, but I often forget about the power in what it was to, you know, as young folks would say, get it out the mud, but really what it was just to work that muscle of trying to do more, right? And so the clips with Cliff Huxtable talking to his kids, trying to prepare them for the future, telling them no, that was such a part that resonated with Cliff Huxtable, was all of the no's he would tell his kids, and they would come running asking, not because he couldn't do it for them, but just because they needed to be without. Because it teaches you to value something. When it's always there, you don't value it. It's easier to take away, you know. And so I think why we saw such a return to form with our generation and raising our children as men, being in the homes or being super present with our kids where our parents weren't, or our fathers weren't, was because we felt that void so clear, and we just wanted to repair that inner child within ourselves. But when we're doing that, are we doing too much? You know, that's something that I'm always asking myself. Am I giving them too much? Am I, you know, because I remember like the few homies in the hood who had their daddies around, they just had this completely different level of confidence. And it wasn't that cockiness, you know, it was like so much vibrato for so many of us that didn't have daddies, and, oh, I could do that. Oh, I'll do 3C. I'm Jordan. I'm Isaiah, you know, whatever it was, I go, I was dunking in the 7th grade, you know. But the dudes who had their daddies around, you know, they was going, may have been a little bit quieter or not, but it was like, nah, it was really, they had a different level of, oh, nah, I can really deliver on this, because, you know, they felt that. And I just think that part, trying to balance how you build out that confidence in a girl or a boy, you know, that's the child, is a major piece that, you know, Cliff, I respond to that when I think of Cliff Huxtable. He was always trying to find that balance.
For sure.
That was super aspirational for the most of us, because we weren't living as a doctor and married to a lawyer and all of that type of stuff. But it was like, okay, when you got all that, and then we see like the new form of it in Blackish, when you got all that, how you let these kids navigate and find themselves, you know. But I just want to go back to one thing. I'll be quiet. You know, I definitely got the therapy. You know, I walked in like Marshawn Lynch too, because my wife's I was here, so I don't get fined.
Just here, don't get fined.
Yeah, the situation was different because it was just something that I clearly didn't see how it was showing up. And one of the things talking in my therapy sessions about talking about family makeup and all this, I had, older brother and all my cousins and brother, they're like 10 years older than me. So they sort of served as somewhat father figures too, at least uncles or whatever. But they provided this cloud or this cover for me where, one of the things that I realized in therapy was for them, it was different because they ain't have nobody above them. They ain't have no fathers or nothing. And they had to be tough way before they were strong. But for me, they offered me the opportunity to be strong before I was tough. And so that's something I'm always trying to remember with my children. Is like make sure they strong before they got to be tough, before they got to be prepared for this world. And that was a lot what I got in therapy. It was like, okay, well, you just because that came out for you, it didn't come out for everyone. So, you can't be rah like the Dungeon Dragon all the time because it is intimidating. Like Q was talking about with his youngest son. He can't be like he is with his oldest son. You got to change it up a bit. As a father, I think that's something that what you saw with Heathcliff Huxtable, bring it back to that. He had to do it differently for all the ways, that he was parenting.
For sure, brother. And that kind of that resonates with me too, man. Because listen, I've been very vocal and public about this. I try to take my own life, and after being talked off that ledge, I tried to spend some time with my children. I remember I took them to a movie, and after the movie, I came home. It was one of the Marvel movies. I came home from the movie. I looked at my wife and I said, "Listen, I have to go in, or I'm not gonna survive the rest of this year. I'm gonna kill myself." And that was my introduction into therapy. But I looked at my kids and just realized, I think I'd rather give this a shot than just go ahead and quit completely. You know what I mean? So I think that all of us might have been forced into therapy, but I think we can kind of all agree that it was necessary. And the message I hope resonates with whoever's watching is that it's okay to go get that help, and you cannot heal what you don't reveal. And learning to be vulnerable is not a knock against your masculinity. It's actually the most masculine thing you can do. Real quick, I want to start bench cut these guys, man. Start bench cut Cliff, James Evans, Uncle Phil. Mike, go ahead first, man. Start bench cut, man.
Starting James. Starting James. As crazy as he is, I know he's gonna get a job done. I'm starting James, man. Starting James. I'm gonna bench Uncle Phil, and I'm gonna cut Cliff Huxtable.
Damn, I want to get into that. We ain't got enough time, but I want to get into that lineup, man. Q, start bench cut, man. Uncle Phil, James Evans.
Man, let me start off by saying this. This might be crazy to y'all, but I never really watched the Cosby Show like that.
You're right.
I was outside. I was at practice. I really never really liked it. So I'm gonna start off with the cut. I'm cutting Cliff, but not because of what he did or what he stood for, just because I don't know it like that. I know what other people say, but I just don't know it like that.
Okay.
Definitely starting James. He from the crib. And then I'm benching Phil for sure.
That's crazy, man. And the way I envy that, man. I wish I'd never seen the Cosby Show, man, so I can watch it again. But, bro, what you think, man?
Hey, man. I was gonna bench Cliff, but the way they going in on him, I gotta start him now. I got him on a shirt somewhere. How you see that? Yeah, I got him on a shirt right here.
You wearing that Golden Gartrell?
Yeah. They got that Golden Gartrell, man.
Yeah. So I'm starting Cliff, and I'm gonna have to cut. Fresh Prince was corny, but I'm gonna have to bench Uncle Phil. I'm gonna have to cut James.
Oh,
man. I'm gonna have to cut James, but Fresh Prince was corny, but Uncle Phil was doing his thing though.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, man. I'm definitely starting Uncle Phil. And I wouldn't have said that before doing the research for this show, but man, Uncle Phil had it, bro. I'm a bench Cliff. I told y'all I binge Good Times, bro. James is cut, man. Y'all gotta go watch that show, man. That dude is unstable, man.
Hey,
James
man.
Evans is unstable as hell, bro.
Joe came in with a bias
James
on
is
James,
everybody's
bro.
uncle, daddy. He everybody, bro.
Bro, man,
Joe,
he is what's wrong. Hey, man, he is what's wrong with the generation, bro.
nah,
That
bro.
bro,
James
that
went
bro.
hard in the paint, man. In that
Yeah,
low
He
man.
did.
post, no
Nah, it's a
matter what.
fact.
This man was a daddy in Cabrini Green, man. You gotta
Bro.
give me some
Yeah.
points. All his kids live, boy. One got
Yeah,
shot, but he made it back.
yeah, bro. But listen, they had 20 to 30 opportunities to get out of Cabrini Green, man, but they did not
Something
go.
always happens.
They
Something
would
always
not
happens,
go,
bro.
man.
Hey, that's why I cut him.
Yeah, I had to cut him, man. When he asked Junior to sell his paint for the rent money, man, he gotta go, man.
Man.
He gotta go,
Hey,
man.
hey, you gotta contribute, man. When you that
Hey,
old, man,
yeah.
it's
When
something.
you grown, when you grown, stand
Yeah,
on, you gotta pay something, bro.
for real.
But listen, man, to close it out, man, I want to give each of y'all opportunity to talk about, anything from the day's discussion that y'all hope resonate with the audience, man. Yeah, so I'll just throw it out, man. I'm gonna start with you, Mike. Anything that you talked about today that you hope resonates with anybody out there listening?
Man, I hope therapy. I'm a real big advocate for therapy, man. Therapy. Um, for someone who is completely against it, man, to somebody that absolutely says out loud that I love my therapist and I love going to therapy every week. I can't say that enough. Um, and another thing, man, is just community. Um, Black men need a community of other black men so that they can talk, discuss topics, things that we don't feel safe talking to with anybody else. We need a safe space. Women do it all the time, men don't. Um, if you had, I wouldn't have said this 4 years ago. I was like, man, I ain't talking to other dude. But that's how I met Joe. I'm in this men's group, man. It's like a group of like 15 of us, black men from all over the country. Every other Saturday morning, we on a Zoom call, man, talking, discussing topics that black men need to talk about, things that we afraid to talk about, but we do it anyway. I never knew how important community was until I was in one, and I fought that. I fought that passionately. Did not want to do it, but they didn't give up on me, and I'm glad that I stuck with it, man. And they man, some of my best friends. I'll just put it
No
out there
doubt.
like that,
No doubt.
So yeah, man, therapy, community, and just outlets like this that Joe's providing now. Have an opportunity to just talk, and maybe somebody could hear something that we're saying that will inspire them or help them, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
Things like this is very, very important. So, man, yeah, those three things: therapy, community, and outlets of discussion.
Man, beautiful, brother. Brother Q, man, what you got for us, man?
Man, I want to go in a little different direction. I want men and black men and all men in general to know like it's okay to communicate, especially with your significant other. Communicate.
Mm,
Don't feel like you being feminine. Don't feel like it's feminine energy for you to tell somebody exactly how you feel or what you want or what point you trying to make. Communicate. I would even go to the point of saying over communicate. Then you could pull back a little bit and you can say enough for what they could learn from. That and when it comes to your children, don't talk
hmm,
to and listen to what they gotta say and then provide leadership based on what they telling you that how they feel like. Don't tell your son, oh man, you sound like a little bee because you're saying this how your feelings are. Talk to them, don't talk at them,
that
you
part.
know. And so yeah, like those are my biggest things, man.
Yeah.
Communicate, man. It's not feminine. It's very masculine, actually.
Yeah, man. Y'all two brothers about to make me tear up, brother. This is what I'm out here. This is what I'm out here to do. This is the mission. Brother Vaunt, man, what you got for us, man?
our children come to us through us. They don't really belong to us in that way. Ego will tell us that they're ours, but really it's a gift from God for you to show and prove that you mastered the test. You know, when we was in school, the teacher would sometimes say, okay, teach it to somebody else to make sure you knew it. So when the opportunity comes with our children, it's really about making sure that we understood it. It's an opportunity and it's a gift to make sure that we mastered all the whatever the keys to the game, whatever the life lessons were. So remembering that they just come through us, and they come to us that way, but it's not ours to own forever. It's ours to see what we can do, and then how can we honor that gift? If we look at them for real as a gift, then we doing our part. The last thing I want to say is, you know, it cannot go understated. We you know, Joe, you got a shirt that says you was a fatherless father. We was a generation of fatherless fathers, and now we fathering ours. So we did it, y'all. We broke. People talk about generational curses. If you was raised on hip hop, you was probably raised on hip hop because your daddy wasn't there. And we love hip hop because we felt like we were hearing a message communicated to us that we wanted to hear in a voice that we weren't getting. And now all my boys I grew up with that didn't have their daddies around, we incredible fathers. And so we did it. Celebrate that we broke that curse. We grew up hearing all the statistics. How many of us didn't have no daddy, and now all of us are incredible daddies to our children. So give it up for yourself for that.
It's a choice, brother.
Yeah,
It's a choice.
Indeed.
And I feel like you know, that lends to, you know, the reality that you know, Black fathers are statistically the most present at this point, because it was a generation of us who went without, and we did not want to repeat that, and we did not want to give that to our children, the next generation, even though, you know, the media would have you believe at times that, you know, there's just a generation of Black kids out there without fathers for whatever reason. But here we are, statistically most present out of all races, man. We here. So, and I just want to say I appreciate you brothers deeply. You know, man, it was first round draft picks when I thought about doing this episode right after John Amos passed away. I immediately put you three brothers back to back to back in my head, and all you responded and showed up. I even moved the date that I wanted to do it just so I can get all y'all at the same time, man. So I didn't have no plan B, and I didn't ask nobody before y'all. So thank y'all, man, for really appreciating that, man.
Appreciate that, brother.
This worked out. This worked out just the way I wanted it to. And last thing I'll say, you know, if you're looking for some of this counseling that they're talking about, come find me, realuconsultant.com, brothers. And if it's not me, let it be somebody. Like the message of the night basically is, man, vulnerability is where it's at. It's the most masculine thing you could possibly do. Get in the healing that is required for you to be the light and the leader that your family requires, that the community requires you to be. We need y'all, man. And it's time. You don't have to be out there broken and unhealed. It's time, brothers. It's really time, man. And we got to learn how to talk to one another. You know, like Mike said, that group that we in, man. I mean, there's really no holds barred, man. We say whatever, man. And nobody's embarrassed to say it. You know, you wouldn't, you know, things that, you know, conversations I wouldn't be willing to have with other men that, you know, maybe a decade ago. I'm having them now, and I'm trying to lead as many brothers as I can to that space, because I know how critical we are to the community and to the household. And I've been an educator, I've been a therapist of young people, and I know how badly we are needed. And I know what it looks like when the broken versions of us are out there trying to conduct stuff. Let's fix it up. But that's all I got tonight, man. I want to thank everybody for joining. Please join us as often as possible. You can catch it. We're going to load it up to like all the other episodes on Spotify and Apple. If you missed it, you can watch it live on YouTube. It's up. Thank you all. And I want to say, hey, every Tuesday night we out here. We are here every Tuesday night. This conversation alone spurred about 10 different episodes that I was so many more questions that I wanted to dive into, but I didn't have the time. So we're gonna have to do it again, do it next time, man. Y'all have a good night. God bless you. Be vulnerable because it's sexy.
All right, brother.
All right, man. Much love.